The numbers didn't lie, and tonight they were screaming disaster. Alina Hartwell stood frozen in her executive suite on the 47th floor of Quantum Dynamics headquarters in downtown Chicago, watching her life's work evaporate in real time. Red alerts flooded every screen. The ransomware attack had begun at 9:47 p.m., and within 20 minutes, 15 years of proprietary research, client databases, and financial records were being encrypted and held hostage. The acquisition deal with Tech Vanguard, worth $18 billion and set to close in 6 hours, was now impossible. Without access to their systems, without proof of their assets, there was nothing to acquire, just empty promises and locked doors. Alina had dismissed her crisis management team an hour ago. She couldn't stand their panicked faces, their useless suggestions, their thinly veiled blame. This was her empire, her burden, her failure. She pressed her forehead against the cold glass window, staring down at the glittering city below. Somewhere down there, people were laughing, living ordinary lives, unburdened by the weight of thousands of employees depending on their next decision. She envied them. "The cleaners usually finish by 10, she muttered to herself, glancing at her watch. 10:47 p.m., but the footsteps in the hallway told her someone was still here. A gentle knock on the glass door made her turn. A black man in his mid-40s stood there, wearing a gray maintenance uniform with Davis stitched above the pocket. He carried a mop bucket on wheels, and his dark eyes held an unusual steadiness, not intrusive, just present. "Sorry to disturb you, ma'am," he said quietly, his voice carrying traces of South Side Chicago. "Didn't know anyone was still working. I can come back." Alina forced a brittle laugh. "Working? Is that what this looks like?" She gestured at the chaos on her screens. "I'm watching everything I built turn to ash, mister." She squinted at his name tag, Davis. He hesitated at the doorway, studying the monitors with an intensity that seemed odd for a janitor. "That's a CryptoLocker variant," he said, almost to himself. "Military-grade encryption by the look of it." Alina's exhaustion made her slow to process his words. "What did you just say?" Davis stepped back, shaking his head. "Nothing, ma'am. I apologize, not my place." "No," Alina crossed the room quickly. "You recognize that code, how?" He met her gaze, and for the first time that night, she saw something other than pity or fear in someone's eyes. She saw knowledge. "Before I pushed mops for a living," Davis said carefully, "I wrote defensive algorithms for the NSA's Cyber Threat Division." The words hung in the air between them, absurd and impossible. If you're wondering how a former intelligence officer ended up cleaning floors, and whether he can save a billionaire's empire before sunrise, then keep watching. Subscribe, hit the like button, and drop a comment telling me, have you ever met someone whose past was nothing like their present? Because what happens next will make you question everything you think you know about second chances. "You're telling me," Alina said slowly, her voice barely above a whisper, "that you can break military encryption." "Not break it," Davis corrected, picking up his mop handle like it was a familiar weapon. "But I can trace it, find the source, and if your backup systems are isolated correctly, we might recover everything before dawn." Alina looked at this man, this stranger in a maintenance uniform who spoke the language of cyber warfare while holding cleaning supplies, and made a decision that would either save her company or destroy what little remained. "Show me," she said. Davis set down his bucket and approached her desk, his movements suddenly professional, economical. His fingers flew across her keyboard, pulling up diagnostics Alina hadn't known existed. Lines of code scrolled past, and his eyes tracked them with the precision of someone reading a familiar book. "Your firewall has 17 entry points," he said, his voice dropping into a focused monotone. 16 are decoys. The real breach came through your executive email server, specifically through a phishing attack sent to," he paused, reading the metadata, Your Chief Operations Officer, Richard Brennan. Alina's blood went cold. Richard, that's impossible. He's been with me for 12 years. 12 years is long enough to become comfortable, Davis said quietly, not looking up. Long enough to stop questioning. Your attacker knew that. He pulled up a secondary screen showing email logs. There in stark detail was the proof. Richard had opened an attachment titled Tech Vanguard Final Terms, PDF at 9:31 p.m., 16 minutes before the attack began. This wasn't random, Davis continued, his jaw tightening. Someone inside gave them your backup protocols, your security rotation schedules, even your biometric access codes. This was coordinated. Alina sank into her chair, the betrayal hitting harder than the financial loss. Can we stop it? Your main systems are gone, Davis said bluntly. But companies like yours don't put all their data in one basket. Where's your cold storage facility? Basement level 3, Alina whispered. Physical servers air-gapped from the network. Davis nodded. That's our lifeline, but we need to move fast. Whoever did this will realize their mistake soon, and they'll send someone to finish the job. Then let's go. They took the emergency stairs, Alina's designer heels echoing against concrete as they descended. Davis moved quietly, efficiently, occasionally checking his phone, a battered device that looked a decade old. Why are you doing this? Alina asked between floors. You don't owe me anything. Davis paused on the landing, his expression distant. 7 years ago, my wife Alicia was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. I left the NSA to care for her. Spent everything we had on treatments that didn't work. She died on our daughter Zara's 4th birthday. Alina's throat tightened. I'm so sorry. After that, Davis continued, his voice steady but weighted, no agency would rehire me. 3 years out of the field meant I was obsolete. So I took the only job that let me work nights when Zara's with her grandmother and study during the day. I've been teaching myself the new languages, the new protocols, just in case. He trailed off. In case someone needed you, Alina finished softly. In case I needed to be useful again, Davis corrected. For Zara, so she sees her father as someone who didn't give up. They reached level 3. The basement was cold, lit by flickering fluorescent tubes that cast harsh shadows across rows of server racks. Davis approached the main terminal, pulling out a small USB drive from his pocket. Is that, Alina started. My old NSA access toolkit, Davis said. Technically illegal for me to have. But tonight I don't care. He plugged it in and the screen blazed to life. His fingers moved with the muscle memory of his former life, bypassing security layers, pulling diagnostic reports, tracing data pathways. Alina watched, barely breathing, as green progress bars began to fill. Your cold storage is intact, Davis said, relief evident in his voice. They never touched it. Everything, client records, research data, financial documentation, it's all here. How long to restore the main systems? 4 hours, maybe 3 if I can parallelize the transfer protocols. Alina checked her watch, 11:23 p.m. The Tech Vanguard deal closed at 6:00 a.m. They had time, barely. Do it, she commanded. Davis's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his expression darkened. Ms. Hartwell, we have a problem. He turned the phone toward her. A text from an unknown number. Stop now or the girl pays the price. Below it, a photo of a small black girl with braided hair sitting in a classroom, unaware of the camera. Zara. They know about my daughter, Davis whispered, his voice cracking for the first time. They're watching her school. Alina felt rage ignite in her chest, not the cold fury of betrayal, but the white-hot anger of someone seeing an innocent child threatened. Where is she right now? My mother's house on the south side. She thinks I'm at work. Call her, tell her to take Zara and drive to the Four Seasons. I'll have security meet them there. Use my name." Davis hesitated, his hands shaking slightly. "Ms. Hartwell." "Alina," she interrupted, "and your daughter's safety is non-negotiable. Make the call." While Davis spoke quietly to his mother, Alina pulled out her own phone and dialed her head of personal security. "Frank, I need a protective detail at the Four Seasons in 20 minutes. Priority 1, no questions. A 10-year-old girl and her grandmother." "On it, Ms. Hartwell." Davis ended his call, his shoulders sagging with relief. "She's leaving now." "Good," Alina said. "Now let's finish this and find out who threatened your child." They worked in focused silence for the next hour. Davis rebuilt the network architecture from the ground up, installing new encryption protocols and backdoor traps. Alina monitored the transfer speeds, occasionally feeding him coffee from the ancient break room machine. At 1:47 a.m., Davis leaned back, his eyes bloodshot but alert. "The restoration is complete, but I found something else." He pulled up a hidden directory, one that Alina had never seen before. Inside were files labeled with dates going back 18 months, all correspondence between Richard Brennan and someone using the email alias Ghost Key. Alina read through them, her horror growing with each message. Richard hadn't just opened one phishing email. He'd been selling quantum dynamics secrets for over a year, piece by piece, to their largest competitor, Helix Corporation. "Why?" Alina breathed. "I gave him everything: stock options, bonuses, partnership." "Some people resent being given anything," Davis said quietly. "They'd rather take it and pretend they earned it themselves." The final email was timestamped 2 hours ago. Phase 3 complete. Building will be empty by dawn. Send final payment. "He's coming back," Alina realized, "to finish destroying the physical servers." "Then we'll be waiting," Davis said, standing and cracking his knuckles. "Do you trust your security team?" "Frank, yes. The others." Alina trailed off, understanding the implication. Richard had access to hearing decisions. "Then it's just us." They positioned themselves in the shadows behind the server racks, Alina clutching a heavy wrench from the maintenance closet, Davis holding nothing but his phone and his wits. At 3:14 a.m. the elevator dinged. Footsteps approached, not just one person but 3. Richard Brennan's voice carried through the basement. "Make it quick. Smash the drives and let's go." 2 men in dark clothes followed him, carrying crowbars. Richard looked tired, almost sad, as he surveyed the servers. "Did you ever really believe in this company?" Alina's voice cut through the basement like a blade. Richard spun around, his face going pale as Alina and Davis stepped into the light. "Alina, this isn't." 18 months of betrayal," Alina continued, her voice hard as steel. 18 months of selling out 50,000 employees, all because what? I didn't give you enough praise, enough power. "You never saw me," Richard shouted, his composure shattering. "Always Victoria this, Morrison that." "Wrong company," Davis interjected calmly. "Might want to keep your betrayals straight." Richard's face reddened. "It doesn't matter. Helix paid me $8 million for those files. By sunrise, quantum dynamics is finished and I'll be." The basement lights blazed on. Frank and 6 security officers emerged from the stairwell, weapons drawn. Behind them, 2 FBI agents in windbreakers stepped forward. "Richard Brennan," one agent said, "you're under arrest for corporate espionage, cyber terrorism, and conspiracy to commit extortion." As Richard was handcuffed, his face twisted with impotent rage, Alina felt only emptiness. No satisfaction, no victory, just the hollow weight of trust destroyed. But when she looked at Davis, this man who had risked everything, including his daughter's safety, to help a stranger, she saw something different. She saw what integrity looked like when it couldn't be bought. The Tech Vanguard acquisition closed at 6:00 a.m. as scheduled. Alina signed the papers with steady hands, though she hadn't slept in 30 hours. The $18 billion deal was secured, quantum dynamics saved, and the media was already calling it the miracle recovery of the decade. But Alina Hartwell felt no triumph. She stood in her office as the sun rose over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of amber and gold, and thought about all the things she'd lost while building her empire. Her marriage, dissolved after 3 years because you're married to your company, not me. Her father's final months, missed because of board meetings in Singapore. The countless birthdays, holidays, moments that could never be recovered. Success always has its price, she'd told herself for 15 years. Looking at Davis, who sat exhausted in the corner chair with his phone pressed to his ear, quietly reassuring his daughter that everything was okay, Alina wondered if she'd been paying the wrong currency all along. When Davis ended the call, Alina said, "I'm making you Chief Information Security Officer. Salary, $500,000 annually, stock options, full benefits, and a schedule that lets you be home every night by 6. Davis stared at her. "Ms. Hartwell." "Alina," she insisted, "and before you argue, let me say this. I built this company thinking that sacrifice meant abandoning everything personal for something greater. You taught me that real strength is protecting what matters most while still doing the work that needs to be done. Quantum dynamics needs that philosophy. I need it." Davis's eyes glistened. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll teach me how to be that kind of person," Alina replied softly. "Because I don't want to reach the end of my life and realize I won everything except what actually mattered." He smiled, the first genuine smile she'd seen from him. "Deal." Over the following weeks, quantum dynamics transformed. Alina implemented mandatory work-life balance policies, no emails after 7 p.m., mandatory vacation days, on-site childcare, and flexible remote work. Wall Street analysts questioned her sanity. Her board members worried about productivity. But something remarkable happened. Employee retention increased by 40%. Innovation proposals tripled. The company culture shifted from cutthroat competition to collaborative excellence, and quantum dynamics stock value climbed higher than ever. Davis built the most sophisticated cybersecurity system in the industry, one that protected not just data, but the people behind it. He hired others like himself, talented professionals who'd fallen through society's cracks and just needed someone to see their worth. One evening, 3 months after that terrible night, Alina visited Davis's home for dinner. It was a modest apartment in Bronzeville, but filled with warmth. Zara's artwork covering the refrigerator, photos of Alicia smiling from every shelf, the smell of home-cooked food that Alina couldn't remember experiencing in years. Zara, now 11, showed Alina her science project about cybersecurity. "My dad says you saved his career," she said proudly, "but he won't tell me how." Alina glanced at Davis, who shrugged with a small smile. "The truth is, Zara," Alina said gently, "your father saved mine. He reminded me that the best leaders aren't the ones who sacrifice everything for success. They're the ones who understand what success really means." After dinner, as Davis walked Alina to her car, she asked, "Do you regret it? Leaving the NSA, spending those years cleaning floors?" Davis looked back at his apartment where Zara's silhouette danced behind the curtains. "I regret that Alicia didn't get to see Zara grow up," he said quietly. "I regret that the system failed people like me who chose family over career, but regret pushing that mop." He shook his head. "That job kept me alive when everything else was falling apart. It gave me time with my daughter, and it put me in your office on the one night you needed me most. Some people call that coincidence. I call it purpose." Alina drove home through the glowing city, past the skyscrapers and monuments to ambition, and for the first time in 15 years, she didn't feel empty. 6 months later, Quantum Dynamics launched the Second Chances Initiative, a program that hired professionals who'd been out of work due to caregiving responsibilities, offering them flexible schedules and career rebuilding support. Davis led the program, and within a year, They'd placed over 200 people in meaningful work. The tech industry called it revolutionary. Alina called it what it was: basic human decency. Richard Brennan was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for espionage and cyber terrorism. Helix Corporation's CEO resigned in disgrace when the FBI investigation revealed their involvement. And quantum dynamics emerged stronger, not despite the crisis, but because of how they chose to rebuild afterward. On the one-year anniversary of that night, Alina stood before her employees during an all-hands meeting. "We're going to talk about failure today," she began. "My failure, because I built this company on the belief that success meant working until you had nothing left to give. That dedication meant sacrifice. That leadership meant being invulnerable." The auditorium was silent. But a man pushing a mop cart taught me something I'd forgotten. True strength isn't about never falling down. It's about knowing what's worth standing up for. It's about protecting the people who matter while still doing the work that needs to be done. And it's about recognizing that sometimes the most valuable person in the room is the one everyone else overlooked. She gestured to Davis, sitting in the front row with Zara beside him. "This man saved our company, but more importantly, he saved me from becoming someone I couldn't live with. And I want every person in this room to remember, your worth isn't measured by your title, your salary, or your working hours. It's measured by whether you can look at yourself in the mirror and respect who you see." The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. That night, as Alina returned to her apartment, smaller now, simpler, but somehow more like home, she found herself looking at an old photo of her mother, taken months before she'd passed away while Alina was signing contracts in Singapore. "I'm sorry I wasn't there," Alina whispered to the image, "but I'm finally learning." Her phone buzzed, a text from Davis. "Zara's science fair is next Thursday at 6 p.m. She'd be honored if you came. So would I." Alina smiled and typed back, "I'll be there. And I'm clearing my calendar, no meetings, no exceptions." Because she'd learned the hardest lesson of her life, that the numbers on a balance sheet, the contracts signed, the empires built, none of it mattered if you lost yourself in the process. True success wasn't about reaching the top of the mountain. It was about knowing who was climbing beside you and making sure nobody was left behind. If this story moved you, if it made you think about what really matters in life, then please subscribe to see more stories that challenge the way we think about success, sacrifice, and second chances. Hit the like button if you believe that everyone deserves to be seen for who they truly are, not just what they do. And leave a comment telling me, what would you sacrifice for success? And more importantly, what would you never give up? Because sometimes, the most powerful person in the room is the one nobody expected to be there at all. Remember, dignity isn't found in titles or wealth. It's found in the quiet moments when you choose to do what's right, even when no one's watching. And sometimes, the hero who saves your life is the one you never thought to look at twice.